Welcome to the world. Jessa Duggar's baby arrival sparks heartwarming Duggar family reactions. Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. For Duggar family latest news update, please subscribe the channel and press the bell icon. The Duggar family had always been known for their large brood, but every time a new child or grandchild entered the world, it brought fresh excitement, fresh tears, and fresh stories to tell. This time, the spotlight was on Jessa Sewald, née Duggar. After months of speculation, whispers, and a fair share of social media hints, Jessa finally announced the arrival of her new baby, and the entire Duggar clan was swept up in emotions that ranged from joy to tears. The long wait, Jessa, already a mother of 4, had kept much of this pregnancy quiet compared to her previous ones. After her miscarriage in 2021, she had learned the fragile balance of hope and heartbreak. Every appointment, every flutter, and every sonogram carried weighty prayers. She and her husband, Ben Sewald, had shared bits and pieces with fans, grainy ultrasound photos, moments of their kids kissing Jessa's growing belly, but nothing too detailed. When the due date finally approached, the Duggar home in Arkansas became a buzzing hub of activity. Jim, Bob, and Michelle, Jessa's parents, could hardly contain their excitement at another grandchild being born. With 20-plus grandchildren already, you'd think they might grow used to it, but Michelle often said, "Every baby is a blessing, a new soul to cherish, a gift straight from God." Jessa, meanwhile, was calm but exhausted. Ben stayed by her side through every contraction, his calm and quiet strength balancing her fierce determination. The big day, the early hours of the morning brought the first waves of labor. Jessa, wrapped in a soft blanket, tried to breathe through each contraction while Ben timed them. Soon, the decision was made. They had to head to the hospital. As soon as the news spread across the Duggar family group chat, chaos erupted. Joy, Jill, Jana, Jinger, and the rest of the sisters began arranging childcare and cooking meals. The brothers texted encouragement, while Michelle and Jim Bob quickly got into their car, determined to be at the hospital in time. The labor was long, filled with both tears and laughter. Ben whispered prayers in Jessa's ear, holding her hand tightly. After hours of pushing, crying, and endless strength, a soft newborn cry finally filled the hospital room. The baby had arrived. Jessa wept openly as the nurse placed the warm, wriggling infant onto her chest. She whispered, "Thank you, Lord, thank you for this gift." Ben, overcome with emotion, kissed Jessa's forehead before breaking down himself. He looked at the tiny baby, pink cheeks, a tuft of dark hair, and small fists curled tightly, and knew that their lives had once again been changed forever. The first phone call went to Michelle and Jim Bob, who were waiting in the hospital hallway with misty eyes and clasped hands. When Ben came out, tears streaming down his face, Jim Bob immediately stood and hugged him tightly. "Did I ask everything okay?" "How's Jessa?" Michelle asked, her voice trembling. Ben nodded, smiling through his tears. "She's perfect. And the baby's healthy. God is so good." Michelle gasped, covering her mouth, and began to cry softly into Jim Bob's shoulder. After years of watching her children grow and start families of their own, each new grandchild still touched her heart like the very first. The name reveal, AS with every Duggar birth, speculation had been wild online. Fans threw out dozens of guesses about the name, waiting eagerly for the official announcement. Would it be another Bible-inspired name, like Spurgeon or Henry? Or something modern and unique? 2 days later, Jessa and Ben shared their baby's name in an emotional video, Evelyn Grace Sewald, fictional for this story. The name carried deep meaning, Evelyn symbolizing life and Grace representing God's mercy after loss. In the video, Jessa sat in a rocking chair, cradling the baby while her other children peeked around curiously, eager to hold their little sister. Ben stood beside her, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. "We chose this name," Jessa explained through tears, "because after everything we've been through, this little girl feels like grace and life wrapped together. We didn't know if we'd get to this moment, but here she is, safe and loved." Family visits. Soon, the Duggar family poured into the hospital room. Each visit was emotional in its own way. Michelle's reaction, She cried as she held the baby, whispering prayers of gratitude. "You are so loved, little one," she said, stroking the baby's tiny head. Jim Bob's moment. He proudly held the baby, declaring another arrow in the quiver. What a mighty blessing from the Lord. The siblings, Joy and Jill, snapped photos, while Jinger video called from California to see her new niece. Jana helped wrangle the older Seawald kids so Jessa could rest. The room was filled with laughter, tears, and stories of Jessa's childhood. One by one, the siblings shared their love and joy, reminding Jessa that although her journey had been difficult, she was surrounded by unwavering support. Public announcement. When Jessa posted the first official baby photo on Instagram, a close-up of Evelyn's tiny hand wrapped around her finger, the internet exploded. Comments flooded in. "Congratulations, Jessa and Ben. She's beautiful, so happy for you, especially after the loss you went through. God is good. Welcome to the world, little Evelyn." Media outlets picked up the story, and fans across the world shared their happiness. For a moment, all the drama and controversies surrounding the Duggar family faded into the background. All that mattered was a baby girl, healthy and loved. Emotional reflection. Late at night, when the visitors had gone and the baby finally drifted to sleep, Jessa sat quietly in her hospital bed. Ben was asleep on the couch, one arm draped over his eyes. The soft hum of machines filled the silence. Jessa looked down at her daughter and whispered, "I prayed for you. I begged God for another chance. And here you are, my miracle. You'll never know how much you mean to me." Tears slipped down her cheeks, not of pain, but of overwhelming gratitude. Back at home, when Jessa and Ben finally brought Evelyn home, the Seawald house was transformed. Balloons, handmade cards from the other kids, and flowers from Michelle decorated the living room. The older children, Spurgeon, Henry, Ivy, and Fern, were fascinated by their new sibling. "Can I hold her?" Spurgeon asked eagerly, bouncing on his toes. "Me first," Ivy chimed in, holding out her small arms. Jessa laughed, guiding them gently. "One at a time, okay? She's very little." The children took turns cradling Evelyn, marveling at her soft skin and tiny fingers. The sound of their giggles filled the house, blending with Evelyn's occasional cries. Duggar family gathering. A week later, the entire Duggar clan gathered for Sunday dinner at the big house. As always, the kitchen was chaotic, kids running, adults laughing, food being passed around in giant bowls. But at the center of it all was Evelyn. Michelle insisted on saying a special prayer of thanksgiving before the meal. With everyone holding hands, she bowed her head and said, "Jinger Duggar and Jeremy Vuolo, a marriage in shadows." Jinger Duggar had always been known as the free-spirited daughter of the Duggar family. Growing up under the watchful eyes of Jim, Bob, and Michelle, her life had always been carefully controlled, every decision scrutinized, every step planned. But when she met Jeremy Vuolo, she saw a chance to breathe, to live a life on her own terms. Their courtship had been idealized. The shy smiles, heartfelt conversations, shared faith, and dreams of a family together. For Jinger, Jeremy represented love, understanding, and the promise of escape from the rigid walls of her upbringing. She married him with hope sparkling in her eyes, believing she had found a partner who would cherish her for exactly who she was. In the early years of their marriage, life seemed idyllic. They moved to Los Angeles, a world away from Arkansas, raising their two daughters in a home filled with laughter, faith, and the little joys of ordinary family life. Jeremy's ministry work grew, and Jinger pursued her passions, writing and speaking about her experiences. But somewhere along the way, the harmony began to crack. At first, it was subtle. Jeremy spent long hours at work, often missing family dinners. Jinger, committed to her children and her own projects, tried to understand. She reminded herself that this was the man she loved, the one who promised to stand by her side through every challenge. But the distance grew. Jinger began to feel an emptiness she could not explain. Conversations that once flowed effortlessly now stumbled into awkward silences. She tried to speak to Jeremy about her feelings, her fears, the weight of her isolation, but his responses were often brief, distracted, or deferred. "I'll listen tomorrow," he would say, and tomorrow never came. The Duggar family watched from afar. While they respected Jinger and Jeremy's decision to move to California, they were not blind to the cracks. Jim Bob called occasionally, offering advice in his own well-meaning but sometimes overbearing way. Michelle would send messages of concern, encouraging Jinger to pray and seek God's guidance. Jill, Jessa, and Jana reached out with empathy, sensing their sister's growing sorrow, but Jinger often masked the depth of her pain. Inside their home, the tension escalated. Jinger's heart ached with loneliness, even when surrounded by her daughter's laughter. Jeremy's passion for his ministry had become a barrier between them. He was physically present but emotionally distant, consumed by the expectations of others, the public persona of a pastor, leaving little room for vulnerability. One evening, after another day filled with unspoken words and subtle disappointments, Jinger found herself sitting alone in the living room, her youngest asleep upstairs. Tears fell silently as she whispered into the empty room, "I just wanted us. I just wanted love." The silence of the house mirrored the silence in their marriage, a silence that had grown louder than any argument could ever be. As months turned into years, the weight of unmet expectations and unresolved conflict began to erode the foundation of their relationship. Simple disagreements became painful confrontations. The love they had once celebrated seemed to fade into a series of compromises and unspoken resentments. Jinger found herself longing for emotional intimacy, for a partner who could see her heart, not just her role as a wife or mother. The Duggar family's occasional visits could not bridge the gap. Each time they left, Jinger felt the void even more acutely. She began journaling, trying to capture her feelings on paper: pain, confusion, longing, and a grief she could not voice aloud. Jeremy, too, struggled, but his struggle was wrapped in silence, pride, and the weight of expectation. He loved Jinger, but he could not break the barriers that his ambition and preoccupations had built. The breaking point came quietly, almost imperceptibly. A misunderstanding escalated into a series of nights spent in separate rooms, conversations reduced to logistics about children and schedules, intimacy fading into memory. Jinger's heart, once full of hope, now carried a persistent ache. She prayed, sought counsel, and tried everything within her power to reconnect, but the emotional distance had become a chasm. Friends and close family began to notice the change. Jill and Jessa called late at night, gently probing, offering support. Michelle sent encouraging messages, reminding Jinger of her strength and resilience. Yet, no external reassurance could heal the internal fracture. The life Jinger had dreamed of, the loving partnership with Jeremy, was now overshadowed by longing and quiet sorrow. In moments of solitude, Jinger reflected on her childhood, the years spent under strict rules and rigid expectations. She realized that, even now, patterns of control and unmet emotional needs had subtly shaped her marriage. Her desire for independence clashed with Jeremy's sense of duty and ambition, creating a persistent friction that neither could fully resolve. Jeremy noticed too, of course. There were moments of guilt, fleeting awareness that the woman he loved was suffering silently beside him. He tried small gestures, a planned date, a heartfelt note, a shared prayer, but the cracks had deepened beyond repair. Both loved each other, yet love alone could not overcome the distance that time, circumstance, and unmet expectations had created. The culmination of years of quiet heartache arrived on an ordinary Sunday morning. After a particularly tense week of misunderstandings, miscommunications, and emotional exhaustion, Jinger realized that the marriage she had once believed in could no longer sustain her heart. Tears streaming, she told Jeremy with trembling voice, I need us to be honest. I cannot keep living in this silence." Jeremy, equally emotional, struggled for words. He loved her, always had, but the truth was undeniable. Their paths, though once intertwined with hope and promise, had diverged. The realization was devastating. They were committed to each other out of love, yet incapable of bridging the emotional distance that had grown insurmountable. Over the next weeks, they navigated the painful process of redefining their relationship. Counseling sessions, heartfelt conversations, and family support helped them come to terms with reality. They continued to co-parent their children with care and love, but the dream of the marriage they had envisioned was gone. The Duggar family, while saddened, respected their honesty and offered unwavering support. Jinger's heartache was profound, yet it also carried lessons in resilience, self-awareness, and the complexity of love. She understood now that sometimes love is not enough to mend what life's circumstances have strained. Jeremy, too, faced the painful truth that devotion alone cannot overcome distance, unspoken needs, and the demands of life. Years later, Jinger would look back at this period with a mixture of sorrow and gratitude. Sorrow for the loss of the marriage she had once dreamed of, and gratitude for the children, family, and experiences that had shaped her into a stronger, wiser woman. The Duggar family, ever present, continued to provide love and support, reminding her that even in heartbreak, family remained a steadfast refuge. A joyful home. Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar's family celebration. Jim Bob Duggar woke up to the soft glow of the early morning sun streaming through the windows of their Arkansas home. The aroma of fresh coffee mixed with the faint smell of breakfast baking downstairs, a tradition Michelle loved to keep alive. Today wasn't just any day, it was the celebration of their 40th wedding anniversary, and the Duggar house buzzed with quiet excitement. Michelle moved gracefully around the kitchen, humming a familiar tune while flipping pancakes. Her eyes sparkled as she glanced at the framed photos lining the counter, memories of their children growing up, family vacations, birthdays, and everyday moments that had stitched their lives together over decades. "Jim Bob, can you help me with the pancakes?" she called cheerfully. Jim Bob appeared from the hallway, a warm smile spreading across his face. He wore his usual casual shirt and jeans, but today he had a twinkle in his eye that matched Michelle's happiness. "Of course, Michelle. I wouldn't miss helping you on our special day," he said, taking the spatula with a laugh. Their children began trickling into the kitchen one by one. Josh, Jana, Jill, Jessa, Jinger, and the rest of the Duggar siblings all brought with them small gifts and homemade cards. The younger ones, with sleepy eyes but bright smiles, crowded around their parents, eager to share their excitement. "Mom, Dad, look what we made!" Josie exclaimed, holding up a large handmade banner that read, "Happy 40th Anniversary," in colorful letters. Everyone cheered, and Jim Bob laughed as Michelle's eyes welled up with happy tears. After breakfast, the family gathered in the living room, decorated with balloons, flowers, and twinkling fairy lights. The atmosphere was warm, filled with laughter, chatter, and the occasional giggle from the youngest Duggar children. Jim Bob and Michelle took their seats on the sofa, holding hands, while the children lined up to give their speeches and blessings. "Mom and Dad, thank you for teaching us the importance of faith, love, and family," Jessa said earnestly, holding her younger siblings' hands. "We're so proud of both of you and grateful for the life you've built for us." Jingo stepped forward, her eyes glistening. "You've shown us what it means to support one another, even during tough times. Your love has been our guiding light." Michelle smiled warmly, squeezing Jim Bob's hand. "We are so blessed to have all of you," she whispered. The family then played a series of games and activities that Michelle and Jim Bob loved. From trivia about family memories to simple relay races in the backyard, laughter echoed throughout the house. Jim Bob, known for his playful competitiveness, cheered on the children as they raced, occasionally teasing them with good-natured jokes. Michelle, equally playful, joined in the fun, ensuring no one missed out on the joy. Later, the family gathered around the dining table for a special lunch. The table was adorned with fresh flowers, candles, and all of Michelle's favorite dishes. Everyone shared stories about past vacations, funny mishaps, and memorable moments that reminded them of the strong bond they shared. Jim Bob recounted a story from the early days of their marriage, causing the room to erupt in laughter at his humorous exaggerations. As the sun began to set, the Duggar family moved outside to enjoy the warm evening. A large bonfire was set up in the backyard, and the children roasted marshmallows while Michelle handed out cups of hot cocoa. The sky turned shades of pink, orange, and purple, reflecting the calm and joyful mood of the day. Jim Bob and Michelle sat together near the fire, holding hands and watching their family in awe. "I can't believe how fast time has gone," Michelle said softly. "It feels like just yesterday we were starting this journey together." Jim Bob nodded. "Yes, but every moment has been worth it. We've built something beautiful, a family that loves and supports each other no matter what." The evening ended with a surprise video montage prepared by the older Duggar children. It included clips from family trips, birthday parties, and candid moments of joy. Jim Bob and Michelle were touched, laughing, crying, and reminiscing about the memories they had created. The montage concluded with messages from grandchildren, each sending heartfelt wishes and hugs to their grandparents. Before bed, Jim Bob and Michelle took a quiet walk around their property. The air was crisp and cool, filled with the scent of blooming flowers. They reminisced about the past, spoke about their hopes for the future, and reflected on the love that had carried them through 4 decades. Back inside, as the children settled into bed, Jim Bob and Michelle sat by the window, holding hands and watching the stars. "Thank you for being my partner in everything," Michelle said softly. "And thank you for making every day brighter," Jim Bob replied. With hearts full of gratitude, love, and happiness, they ended the day feeling closer than ever. It was a simple yet perfect celebration, proof that joy, laughter, and togetherness were the true pillars of their life. The Duggar family's home remained filled with warmth and love, a sanctuary where memories were treasured, and every new day promised more laughter, more blessings, and more reasons to celebrate. Jim Bob and Michelle went to sleep that night, hearts overflowing with happiness, knowing that they had nurtured a family rooted in love, faith, and joy. The next morning brought the usual sounds of laughter and bustling activity, but now with a renewed sense of celebration in every corner. Jim Bob and Michelle started the day with quiet reflection and gratitude for the life they had created together. Their love, unwavering and steadfast, continued to inspire their children, who in turn carried the legacy forward with care and devotion. Throughout the week, the Duggar home remained a hub of shared moments, simple dinners, family prayer times, board games, and storytelling sessions. Neighbors and friends who visited could not help but notice the warmth that radiated from the family. The love between Jim Bob and Michelle was evident in every gesture, the way they looked at each other, the gentle touches, and the constant encouragement they offered one another. In the evenings, the couple often enjoyed sitting on the porch swing, reminiscing about early days of their marriage. They shared laughter over memories of chaotic diaper changes, late-night feedings, and the challenges of raising many children. Yet, even amidst the chaos, they always found joy in small victories, like the first words of a child, a homemade card from the youngest, or simply watching the family play together in the yard. One weekend, Jim Bob surprised Michelle with a small garden project. He had spent days preparing a section of their backyard for her favorite flowers. Michelle was touched beyond words, running her fingers through the freshly planted blooms and marveling at the care he had taken. "You always know how to make life beautiful," she said, tears of happiness glistening in her eyes. As months passed, life continued in its familiar, joyful rhythm. Family dinners, weekend outings, and quiet moments together defined the Duggar home. Every challenge was met with unity, every success celebrated with laughter, and every ordinary day became extraordinary simply because they faced it together.